Okay, this is my What's It Made Of video. Here I have a commonplace item, a broom. And what are the four components? Number 1, bristles. Number 2, the pan. Number 3, the shaft. And number 4, the weird plastic cap at the top. So, what are these things made of? Well, the bristles, the pan, and the cap are all plastic. The shaft is aluminum. Let's first talk about aluminum. Excuse me. Aluminum is extracted from bauxite ores using surface mining. And bauxite forms in wet or subtropical climates usually, where the laterite soil is leached of silica. And this happens very, very abundantly in Africa and Australia, and a lot in South America too. Aluminum is the third most common element and the most common metallic element. And there are 4 stages to extracting aluminum from bauxite. Stage 1 is digestion, as in your stomach. First, just like you're chewing, the bauxite is powdered and pressured, and then, just like in your stomach, it is mixed with an acid, or in this case, caustic soda. And caustic soda, not for drinking, causes a reaction which gives you a sodium aluminate solution and a precipitate of sodium aluminum silicate. In stage 2, we have clarification, where the waste, the precipitate, is cleared out. And your solution, which is an alumina, as it's called, gets filtered and cooled from its original 1000 degrees Celsius in digestion to 650 degrees or so Celsius in clarification. Phase 3 is precipitation. You can guess what happens here. The alumina is precipitated as alumina hydrate crystals and goes back into digesters and with caustic soda. Coming out, it goes into process number 4, calcination, where the alumina hydrate crystals are washed and dried to remove the soda or liquor, again, not for drinking, and is reheated to about 1000 degrees Celsius. What you get is this dry, white, sandy alumina, which can be smelted and shaped using oxygen burners and electrical currents. Now, what about plastic? Plastic is made from crude oil being turned into polymers. Where does America get its oil? Well, about 13% comes from South America, 15% comes from Canada, about 13% comes from the Persian Gulf, 10% comes from Africa, and a whopping 40% comes from our own soil, predominantly in the Dakotas and in the state of Montana. Other hotspots include Russia and Iran. How does oil form? Well, when you have lots of foliage a lot of dense foliage is suddenly compacted and, suddenly covered with lots and lots of sediment and subjected to heat and pressure over thousands of years, it turns into 2 things, actually, natural gas and oil. And when you tap a reservoir or oil trap, basically, the pressure from that oil and the natural gas will actually force it into your pumps. And once you have pumps going, you can pump it into a series of pipes and whatnot and tanks and send it to a refinery. At the refinery, the heavy crude oil will be separated into lighter groups called fractions. Each fraction is a mix of hydrocarbon chains differing in size and strength. Now, there are 2 processes for taking those fractions, especially the naphtha fraction, and turning them into plastics. I don't have the full details on both of these, but I know that polymerization, number 1, adds monomers such as ethylene and propylene that link together with the oil and link to one another to make polymer chains. Now, polycondensation is basically where you add a lot of heat to it, or so I've read. Now, you can get 2 polymer families out of this: the thermoplastics and the thermosets. What's the difference? Well, thermoplastics will soften when reheated, and they will harden when they're cooled. And when I say reheated, I mean after they're molded into shape. So we have actually our bristles are thermoplastics. You can heat these up and reshape them and then, do it over and over again. Now, thermosets, including this plastic, the pan, and the cap, they don't really soften once you heat them up after their initial molding. Now, you can get them to extreme temperatures and you melt them completely, but they don't really soften very easily. And the bristles, specifically, are a polypropylene set of plastics that are drawn out into these thin electrostatic or statically conductive bristles. And these bristles are statically conductive to attract dust and to attract, dirt and such. So there you have it, Carter Wenner, with my What's It Made Of video. The broom. I hope I swept you away with my video.